Welcome to The Real Debrief, the show where we dive deep into the world of film production, exploring the genres you love, the projects making waves, and the trends shaping the industry. We're here to give you a 360-degree review for entertainment professionals. So grab your popcorn and get ready for some expert insights. And, well, the occasional bed joke from Talen. It's The Real Debrief. Now your hosts, Talen and Lisa.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of our podcast. I'm Talen, and as always, Lisa's here with me to break down another mind-bending film. Today, we're talking about The Substance, a body horror masterpiece that digs deep into the anxieties surrounding beauty, youth, and the lengths people will go to hold on to both.
Hey, Talen. I'm so excited to dive into this one. The Substance is a terrifying yet incredibly relevant movie that takes the body horror genre and turns it into a powerful critique of society's obsession with youth and beauty. Demi Moore stars as Elizabeth Sparkle, a once beloved aerobics show host who, after being fired for her age, turns to a mysterious substance that promises to give her a second chance at life. But of course, as with any Faustian bargain, there's a catch. And what a gruesome catch it is.
Oh, absolutely. The film's central concept, this non-yellow fluid that when injected causes a younger version of yourself to emerge from your own body, is both horrifying and fascinating. It's like the ultimate fantasy turned nightmare. Elizabeth's younger self, Sue, played by Margaret Qualley, takes over her life, but not without some brutal consequences. So, Lisa, what really stood out to you about the way the film handled this transformation?
What I loved, and also found completely terrifying, was the way Farja, the director, explores the psychological and physical toll of this transformation. Elizabeth is literally split into two bodies, herself and her younger doppelganger, Sue. But the catch is that only one of them can be conscious at a time. The film builds this incredibly tense atmosphere as they're forced to switch places every 7 days, which means Elizabeth is constantly fighting to hold on to her existence even as her younger self flourishes. The idea of being trapped in your own body, only getting to live half a life, is such a chilling concept.
Oh yeah, yeah. The whole concept of this dual existence really amplifies the horror. It's not just about getting a second chance. It's about losing control of your life entirely. And there's this underlying sense of dread as Elizabeth watches her younger self take over everything she once held dear. Her career, her social life, even her own body. The idea that Sue is the new and improved version of Elizabeth, it's terrifying. Because it suggests that youth is not just something desirable, but something that completely invalidates the person you used to be. Sue is everything Elizabeth once was, but better, stronger, and more admired by the world, leaving Elizabeth in this terrifying limbo of watching herself being replaced.
Yes, and it's that replacement that really gets under your skin. The movie doesn't just play on the fear of aging, but on the fear of irrelevance. Elizabeth isn't just getting older, she's being erased, and the world moves on without her. There's this heartbreaking scene where Elizabeth watches Sue, fully embraced by society, walking in her shoes, literally living the life that used to belong to her. Demi Moore does an amazing job conveying that mixture of anger, despair, and desperation.
Oh yeah. That scene really hit hard. And it's not just horror for horror's sake either. There's a deep emotional core to it. The fear of being forgotten, of being seen as disposable. It's something that so many people, especially women in Hollywood, can relate to. Elizabeth's story is extreme, but it's not far off from the reality that many women face as they age in industries obsessed with youth and beauty.
And the lengths that Elizabeth is willing to go to keep up with this impossible standard are what really drive the horror home. The visual horror, of course, is gruesome. The injections, the nightmarish body-swapping process. but it's the psychological horror that lingers. Elizabeth is torn apart, both literally and figuratively, by her obsession with youth. And Sue isn't just a younger version of her, she's her competition. They're locked in this brutal cycle where only one can exist at a time, and the stakes are incredibly high because neither wants to disappear.
Yeah, right. And then there's the physical toll of maintaining this transformation. The film doesn't shy away from showing the grotesque consequences of Elizabeth's deal with the substance. The nightmarish intravenous devices, the liquid food packs, the endless upkeep. I mean, it's all a metaphor for the lengths we go to preserve youth. I mean, it's brutal, relentless, and there's no real reward at the end. The way the film juxtaposes the pristine beauty of Sue with the decaying state of Elizabeth's original body is frankly chilling.
That's what makes The Substance so powerful as a body horror film. It's not just about physical transformation, it's about the mental and emotional disintegration that comes with trying to maintain an illusion. Elizabeth wants to believe that by regaining her youth she'll regain her life, but instead, she's trapped in this never-ending cycle of self-destruction. And Sue, as perfect as she appears, is a constant reminder that Elizabeth's time is over.
Yeah, and let's talk about Demi Moore's performance for a minute. She's phenomenal in this role. I mean, you can feel every ounce of Elizabeth's pain and desperation. There's a scene where she's staring into a bathroom mirror, contemplating her reflection, and it's so raw. I mean, you see the years of being cast aside, the pressure to maintain a certain appearance, and the fear of being forgotten. Moore really embodies the tragedy of Elizabeth's character.
Absolutely. That mirror scene is one of the most heartbreaking moments in the film. Elizabeth's reflection is no longer just her physical appearance. It's a reflection of everything she's lost, everything she's trying to hold on to. And you can tell that deep down, she knows this deal with the substance isn't going to end well. But she's so desperate to turn back the clock that she's willing to risk everything. Moore brings so much depth to that performance, it's impossible not to feel for her.
Oh yeah. And let's not forget Margaret Qualley as Sue. She plays the younger version of Elizabeth with this eerie confidence. Sue is perfect, poised, and completely disconnected from the chaos that's happening to Elizabeth. It's almost like she's completely unaware of the horror surrounding her, which makes her even more unsettling. She's this embodiment of everything society tells us to value: youth, beauty, perfection. But at the cost of any real substance. No pun intended.
Exactly. Sue's perfection is what makes her so terrifying. She's everything Elizabeth used to be, but without the flaws, without the history. And because of that, she lacks any real depth. She's more of a product than a person, and that's where the horror really lies. Farja is making a clear commentary on how society's obsession with beauty often strips away the real humanity of the people we idolize.
Oh yeah, I mean, that is such a good point. Sue is literally born out of this substance that promises perfection. But what's left behind is the reality of Elizabeth's struggle, her pain, her age, all the things that make her human. I mean, the movie seems to be asking, what are we willing to sacrifice to achieve that kind of perfection? And is it even worth it?
Exactly. And the climax of the movie takes all of this to its extreme. Without giving too much away, let's just say that the final confrontation between Elizabeth and Sue is both visually stunning and emotionally gut-wrenching. It's a battle for survival, but it's also a battle for identity, and by the time the credits roll, you're left questioning who really won. Is there a winner when you're fighting against your own reflection?
That's what makes The Substance so unforgettable. It's not just a horror movie. It's a psychological thriller, a satire, and a deep dive into the anxieties we all have about aging and beauty. It forces us to confront the dark side of our obsession with youth and perfection. And it does so in a way that's both terrifying and thought-provoking.
And Coralie Farja does an amazing job blending all of these elements together. The film is beautifully shot with stark contrast between the sterile, controlled world that Sue lives in and the decaying reality of Elizabeth's existence. It's a visually stunning film, but it never loses sight of the emotional core. The horror may be extreme, but it's grounded in a very real fear that a lot of people can relate to.
Absolutely. The Substance is one of those films that sticks with you long after you've seen it. It's haunting, it's visceral, and it's deeply emotional. If you haven't seen it yet, we highly recommend it. But be prepared, because it's not for the faint of heart.
That's for sure. It's a movie that makes you think about what you're willing to sacrifice to achieve perfection, and whether that perfection is even real in the first place. It's one of the best body horror films I've seen in a long time, and it's a must-watch for anyone who loves thought-provoking horror.
Well, that's all we have time for this episode. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you enjoyed our deep dive into The Substance. Be sure to join us next time for more film analysis. And as always, stay curious, but be careful what you wish for. Youth might not be all it's cracked up to be.
Very true, Talen. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
This has been The Real Debrief. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, like, rate, and review. We'll see you soon on The Real Debrief.